It's time now for Call of the Wild, the official weekly coaches show of the Wenatchee Wild. Stay up to date with your team all season long with Call of the Wild. With head coach and GM Bliss Littler, here's the voice of your Wenatchee Wild, Arch Ecker.
Hello and welcome to Call of the Wild, your weekly Wenatchee Wild coaches show. I'm Arch Ecker along with Wenatchee Wild head coach and general manager Bliss Littler. Coach, last week we started off with a flurry of activity. We had two big college commitments, the franchise committing to you as well for an extended period of time. All of those things boding very well for this franchise long term.
Well, I think so. I think it's we're with the players. I mean, that's really why it's why the players are here. They're here to move on to whatever that next level is, and for the majority of our guys, it'll be Division I college hockey, either next year or the year after. And so anytime you get two players to commit to schools and to commit to really good academic schools as well as hockey schools, it's a bonus. And again, like I told you last week, that it's humbling the support that I think that my family and myself in particular has received from David and Lisa White.
As everyone knows, you've been in this game a long time. You've seen a lot of players take that next step and make their college commitments, over 300 of them in your career, guys that have played for you. Now, of those players, you've seen the gamut of how guys can react. Now, sometimes a guy will get his college commitment and he kind of pulls back. Other guys, it's a big weight off their shoulders and they almost play more free and open. How would you say your two guys, Combs and Raby, responded to their commitments this week?
They were in the minority, that's for sure. Normally when a player gets that commitment, they back off some. They get a little bit fat and happy, which is it's very natural. And you push to try to make sure it doesn't happen. But for the majority of players, they have a weekend, the next game or two, that they back off, and they're right back on a few weeks later, though. But in Charlie's case, I think he picked up 5 goals on the weekend, and Dakota had a great weekend. So again, I think those two players showed why they made college commitments. That not just on the ice, but off the ice, the maturity's there, and the maturity's there to make sure that they show up, they do the work to get back on the ice and help the next teammate out that doesn't have a commitment yet, and to play well and to help everybody.
You know, some of the guys that put up the big points and big numbers, we talk about them week in and week out, but I wanted to shift the focus, at least for right now, and talk about some of the guys that are your younger players that don't play as much and don't always grab headlines, but contributed over the course of the weekend. The first one that comes to mind is to talk about Sam Morton. And not only did he get on the scoreboard with a couple of assists and that kind of thing, he also had the opportunity to earn some time on a power play as well. And it's all about #development. That's something that the Wild have always been about, and you're helping him to work in that direction.
Well, I have a saying that the power play is about winning hockey games and developing hockey players. That no doubt power play turns a 3-2 nail biter. Sometimes you pick up a couple on the power play, kids play a little free and looser, and it turns into a 5-1 or a 5-2 hockey game. When that happens, the younger players, they relax. They're not worried about making a mistake, and that's the big thing with coaching is trying to get players to play free and loose, where they're not worried about making a mistake. And it's much easier said than done. And generally, when the power play has success, the younger guys play a little freer and they make fewer mistakes. And when they do that, all of a sudden, they're able to develop as players. They make more plays, and so I really think the power play is crucial to development of your hockey team. And with a kid like Sam Morton, he's been itching to get out there, and he played 3 different spots on the 2 power play units. He played on both power play units, and like I say, 3 different spots. And he's going to be a dynamite player at some point. And he's a really good player right now, but at some point he's going to be one of the best players in the league.
Another player that certainly grabs your attention as a first-year guy is Lucas Sauter. He's a kid that plays with an extreme amount of confidence.
He has a ton of confidence. He's a kid that plays fast. He makes plays. He puts so much pressure on with his speed. He's a lot like Dakota Raby. The amount of pressure he can put on and the problems that he causes with his speed. He's going to end up being a really good junior player, and I think he'll be a dynamite college player.
Yeah, we watched him split through a couple of defensemen on a rush over the weekend, and that's a direct testament to what you're talking about there. A couple other young players that on Friday night they were scratches, and on Saturday night they come back and respond. Jasper Weatherby scored the first goal of the game, and Slava Demin, who his goals are kind of like how Charlie Combs, how we talk about, he scores a lot of the same type of goals. Demin, up top, power play, the blocker side, heavy wrister, he lets her rip, and both of those guys respond very well.
Well, we'll start with Jasper. That I think he's got a potential to be a pro. That he's a big kid. He skates well. He finishes almost every bump. Anytime there's a chance to finish his check, he finishes it, and he scores. There's not a whole bunch not to like about him, and he just happens to be on a team with many quality and very good veterans that are keeping him from getting more ice. But I have a feeling as the season progresses, he's going to push his way into more ice time. Slava Demin, again, big time talent. And you're right, he seems to have that hard wrister that goes blocker's side in the power play especially, and he seems to be able to find the net that way. But again, you're going to hear a lot about Slava Demin. And he's got an extremely bright future.
One characteristic I've noticed about your team in general, but in particular, I notice it with the young guys, and I notice it, I think, more with them because I don't expect to see it in the younger players so early. But they all have an exceptional ability to use the body to protect the puck to give themselves opportunities, especially on the boards. Is that something that you teach, or is that just something that they had and you scouted and brought them in because of?
Probably more. They've had good coaching in the past. Probably more of the coaching they've had in the past. But it is something that, like yesterday in practice, we were doing a circuit where we had players split up into 6 groups. And one of the circuits, that's exactly what Coach Clark had them doing. So it is something that we do work on a decent amount. But I think more so it just comes from good coaching that they've had before they got here.
Now we got to shift gears. We got to go back to Charlie Combs. The week before, the kid has 2 hat tricks back-to-back against 2 very good teams, Penticton and Merritt. Wakes up the next week, gets his commitment to Bemidji State. I talked to him in the hallway over the week, and I said, what the heck are you going to do for an encore? How do you follow that? Well, he answered by coming back with a hat trick on Friday night against Coquitlam, and on Saturday scores 2, rang one off the crossbar as well, and very easily could have had another couple of points as well. It's just that kid's on fire in a way that I've just never seen.
Well, again, that whole line's playing well. I think Brian Williams and Brendan Harris, along with Charlie, I think they have good chemistry. That they all bring something to the table. But right now, Charlie's shooting the puck like I haven't seen in. I can't say that I've ever seen somebody have 4 games like he's had. But one of the things I'm most proud about the weekend is both nights in the third period we pretty much shut down Harris and Combs. Those 2 didn't see a lot of ice. Saturday night, with 2 goals, coming off 3 consecutive hat tricks, I think they got 2 or maybe 3 shifts at the start of the period before they were shut completely down. And he had opportunities to shoot the puck, and he tried to hit Harris one time on the back door and also tried to hit, he was out with Weatherby and Morton, and he tried to set one of them up instead of shooting the puck for another hat trick, which I thought it showed a lot about where Charlie's come in his development is a not just a outstanding player for us, but as one of our leaders. That I thought is very unselfish on his part. And nobody would have thought twice if he would have shot the puck in those situations. Most guys would, but I thought it showed a lot about his character right now and him being one of our team leaders to distribute the puck.
You know, a lot gets lost when you start looking at that weekend because there was so much offense generated and all the fireworks and Charlie's numbers and all of that. But lost on the back end of that is the fact that you put together very strong defensive effort in front of both goaltenders. We'll talk about the goaltenders in just a moment, but again, limiting the shot opportunities from Coquitlam down to, I think, 15 on one night and 11 the other night. And that's working both ends of the zones the way that a coach likes to see.
For sure. Again, we always think the best defense is having a good offense, is playing in the offensive zone. But as we've seen a few times this year, even though you might have your way with the team and dominate them, if you don't take care of the puck and you don't make the other team work hard to score, you can see what happened up in Coquitlam 3 weeks ago. That we all played them badly, but we didn't make them work very hard. That you give up breakaways, backdoor tap-ins, doesn't matter what your goalie does, you're in trouble. So we've done a good job recently at limiting the amount of turnovers that we have, and at least the turnovers in bad areas. The breakout turnovers are the ones that kill you. We're always going to turn the puck over in the offensive zone at times. Just we try to make a lot of plays, and part of the style that we play is we encourage players to try and make plays, and when you do that, you're going to have to back check and go hard the other way, because we will turn the puck over. But we do have to really concentrate on not turning the puck over when we break it out, and that's an area that I thought we did a good job of the last 4 games.
Let's evaluate each goaltender just a little bit in microcosm over the weekend. Friday night you had Anthony Amnitsky, who was starting, I don't know the number, it might have been his 8th consecutive game or so. And then on Saturday, Garrett Nieto made his long-anticipated return after rehabbing from injury. So let's talk about the performance from each of those guys over the weekend.
Well, I thought they both played well. There was a time when it was 2-0 on Friday night, that even though we had been dominating most of the game, we gave up two really good chances, and Anthony made 2 big saves. You see this, the final score is 10-2, where we gave up a couple goals late. But when it was 2-0, making those saves, it keeps us in position to score the next goal and to try and make the other team back off. Saying quit is definitely too strong of a word, because I don't think players at this level quit. But you're trying to take their will. And if you give up one of those goals there, all of a sudden it's a 2-1 hockey game. They're still battling a little bit harder. And then the same thing happened on Saturday night. Even though the score is much closer most of the game, at 2-0 and at 3-0, Gar made a couple of really big saves. He didn't have a lot of shots, but he did have a couple of chances that, if the puck goes in the net, it gives them a little bit of life. And so again, I would rate our goalies. I'd give them really high marks for both of their play on the weekend.
One last player I'd like to talk about this week is a guy that maybe on another team he might get a lot more spotlight shown on him, but on this team, because of all the offensive fireworks going on around him, sometimes he kind of not gets looked at as much, but that's Matt Baker.
Yeah, what an unsung hero. I mean, he's a quiet leader on our team. He might give the most consistent effort every night. That it's every single night we get his A game. And you're right, with Harris's line, the way they're going right now, they kind of take a lot of thunder and oxygen out of the room. But when you look at the amount of chances, and really if you look at Dakota, Baker, you look at what those two guys, what they've been able to night in, night out, and you throw Colin Burston in there, who's having a tremendous season. That we have 2 first lines, and they put so much pressure on. They're a little more physical than the Harris line, but boy, I think all 3 of those guys complement each other very well, and I think it starts with Baker. I think he's the effort he gives every night is so consistent that he plays an honest game and puts a lot of pressure on.
And he's a great addition to that power play unit as well. Kind of really helps keep that motor running there. was going to ask you about this. You have 11 forwards dressed, which means you're always ended up with one line that's got two, and then you rotate someone through that position. Now, how do you make that decision? Do you do it on the fly? Do you keep a check mark? How does that work?
I go into the night with a little bit of a plan. It's not saying that we're going to give Dakota's going to play 2 shifts there, then 2 shifts off, and then Charlie's going to take 2 shifts. That early on, I try to get Dakota out there as much as possible, just because the tempo he plays at a speed that not many guys can play at, and he complements those 2 players very, very well. As the period goes on, we'll try give Colin Burston a few shifts there, and then in the second period, I try to move it around a little bit, and then we use, whether it's Brian Williams, Charlie Combs, somebody in that situation. So we're putting one of our best players on that line, and so I think it really makes that line deeper. And then what we'll do is we're trying to make sure that we don't burn Brendan Harris out. That it's so easy to throw him out there just because whatever the situation, he's, I think he's our best hockey player. That we want to make sure that his legs are there in March, April, and May during the playoffs. And like when we played Penticton, you saw how much we played him every other shift for probably 14 minutes each period. We put him in that situation. Then we moved. We didn't use Morton that night, but we had, I believe it was Sauter and Weatherby, and we put them on the 2 wings, and we'd rotate centers in that situation. But there's not a big science to it. It's just we're better when we can put one of our highest end guys with 2 first-year guys. We're a better team that way, and I think we're awful deep on defense. We put a 7th guy there. It allows us to do a little more pinching than what we normally would, because it gives them, their legs are really good.
You're watching Call of the Wild. It's our weekly Wenatchee Wild coaches show. I'm Arch Ecker. This is Bliss Littler. We'll step away for a short break, and we'll be back with more. This is your Wenatchee Wild Hockey Network. And welcome back once again. This is Call of the Wild, your weekly Wenatchee Wild coaches show. Arch Ecker along with head coach and GM Bliss Littler. Well, we talked a little bit about last week in the homestand and wrapping up. It's been a perfect homestand so far. 8-0 here at the Town Toyota Center thus far, but now we got to get back on the bus, and we're making our first trip of the year up to Langley. Now, we faced Langley here on opening night, and that was all the way back on September 30th. It was quite a while ago. The last time you were in Langley was in the playoffs last year. So let's take a look ahead. Thursday night, what do you expect to see when you hit the ice against the Rivermen?
2 teams that don't like each other very much.
Yeah, it's certainly something that's been established, and I think we found that out on opening night, that a lot of guys have a little bit of a memory, and anything that wasn't carried over was generated anew. I thought both teams battled really hard on opening night and kind of set the tone for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. That again, we have a lot of respect for that organization, no doubt, and their team. But there's a lot of bad blood that they live it one way, we live it a different way. Their style is completely different than how we play, and I'm sure they don't like how we play, and we don't like how they play, and I guess I don't control what systems they use. They don't control what systems we use. So they're a good organization. They're one of the better organizations. Ton of respect that way. I think that's what makes the league great, is that you have different styles of play, different styles of coaches, and so I know that we have. But at the end of the day, we have 2 teams that don't like each other very much. So I'm thinking we'll be in for a very intense hockey game.
What's their greatest strength? What makes them good, and what do you have to focus on to try to neutralize for your team to be successful there?
Well, they definitely, they're a team that likes to dump in chase a lot of pucks. They finish a lot of bumps. They throw a lot of pucks at the net. I think they're pretty good at it. Actually, I think they're really good at it. So we need to do a good job at when we break pucks out that we handle the puck, that we don't turn pucks over on breaking it out. And I know that, like you say, there's a lot of bad blood between the two teams. That being said, we really need to do our best about staying out of the penalty box. If we can do that and play 5-on-5 hockey, I like our chances. But I'm sure that's easier said than done when kids line up. I mean, we played them 7 regular season games and then 5 in the playoffs. That again, the more you play people, that it just happens that you get a late hit here, late hit there, you get stuck there, whatever. Kids they like to talk. Both teams they'll do a little trash talking, and some of it's comical and some of it's a little overboard. But it's all part of it, and the team that can deal with the shenanigans and not let yourself get too caught up in that kind of stuff is a team that generally wins.
Saturday night, you head home to face the Trail Smoke Eaters. Now, Trail is a team that's got a winning record in the interior division, a place that's always tough to win, so you know they're going to be a formidable foe. Last year, you saw them 3 times, including the showcase. What kind of team is Trail? What's their characteristic?
Very, very similar to Merritt. That they're very well coached. That they play a very structured game, funnel a lot of pucks to the net, crash the net. That where you see some teams that try to make a lot of plays in the neutral zone, a lot of in zone offense. They're a team that they throw a lot of pucks at the net and crash the net. And like I said, they're a very honest, hardworking club, and they're somebody that we need to bring our A game.
Saturday night, Military Appreciation Night at the Town Toyota Center. Bring a military ID, buy one, get one free tickets. That's something the Wild have always kept close to their heart, as well as honoring the military.
100%. That again, hope to see a lot of military uniforms Saturday night, and again, we also have the induction ceremony. Is that in the first period?
I think in the first intermission will be a swearing-in ceremony.
Yeah, and that's always one of the really cool things where they come down and they talk to the players before the game, and it's usually very emotional in the locker room where because a lot of the guys that are being sworn in, they're not much older than our players. Some are even the same age, and again, I know all of us are very grateful for what they do, and for me, it's one of my favorite nights of the year.
So there you go. That'll wrap it up. We've got another great week of hockey Thursday night in Langley and Saturday night here at home against the Trail Smoke Eaters. I'm Arch Ecker. This is Bliss Littler. Thanks for watching this week's edition of Call of the Wild here on your Wenatchee Wild Hockey Network.
You've been listening to Call of the Wild, the official weekly coaches show of the Wenatchee Wild, a presentation of the Wenatchee Wild Hockey Network.